And now we're joined by Casey Goodson's mother, Tamala Payne, and her family's attorney, Sean Walton. Thank you both so much for taking the time. Tamala, I'm the father of two children. I can't wrap my head around the loss of a child, and I'm sorry that you've had to.
Thank you.
Let's begin with what this indictment means to you and your family after a year of waiting.
It means a lot. It's the first part, of the fight. So it means a lot to us. We feel like we have a piece of the accountability that we're looking for.
Sean, there is no video that we know of Casey's shooting, but even so, people came out in large numbers to protest after he died. Do you think that attention helped lead to today's murder charges?
I think what happened was that the family flipped the narrative. Initially, they tried to say that Casey pointed a gun, but what we found was that Casey was entering his home. He had Subway that day. He was leaving the dentist. He was an innocent young man that was murdered. And I think the facts and the evidence here point to that, and it's been clear and very evident to the public based on the story that's been told that Casey is a victim, and I think that is what moved it. I think the protests were a byproduct of the family really advocating to tell Casey's truth.
Is it remarkable to you in any way that you have these charges now and there was no body camera, there was no bystander video as we saw in, like, you say, the George Floyd case or something like that, that is so integral to getting those charges? In this case, how many stories have there been where there haven't been any video, where there hasn't been any video? Is it remarkable to you?
It truly is, and there are no witnesses either. And so that tells you how egregious the actions of Jason Meade were, that there's no eyewitnesses, there's no video, yet it's clear that Casey was a victim and this was a murder. Jason Meade is a former deputy who bragged about his use of force, his righteous release that he received when doing so. And he's a sheriff's deputy that was on the no contact with inmates list for almost 4 years and somehow ended up on the SWAT team. So, it's clear here who the aggressor was. Jason Meade bragged about his right to throw the first punch. That's what happened here. He shot Casey in his back.
Tamala, your family has filed a lawsuit, and one claim you make is that Meade had hundreds of hours of firearms and SWAT training, but little to no training in violence de-escalation. How might that kind of de-escalation training, you think, may have saved your son?
If I'm being honest with you, I'm not really sure if any type of training that Murder Me had would have saved my son because of his history, the hate that's fueled inside of Murder Me. Murder Me preaches about hunting people and throwing the first punch, and the people that he hit, you wish you could hit too. So I think that Murder Me's actions, although he did use aggressive force and things of that nature, I think a lot of his actions came from the hatred that he carries in his heart.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that response. Sean, let me ask you the same question. Legally, as this moves forward, do you think something like that could help in the future?
Absolutely. From the standpoint that Jason Meade's training focused on firearms qualifications, they essentially trained him to be a violent individual. He was placed on this task force, and because of that lack of de-escalation training, it was clear what he prioritized as an officer and what Franklin County prioritized in their officers. And so that's how we got here. But like Tamala said, what happened that day is unjustifiable, shooting a young man walking into his home. And so when it comes to Meade, the jury is out in terms of what could have prevented this.
Tamala, finally, I see you're wearing a picture of your son on your sweatshirt. And in the beginning, I mentioned it's hard for any parent to wrap their head around losing a child. We've talked a lot about, the charges, the case, de-escalation, whatever. I just want, before we go, for you to tell us something about your son. All this back and forth between, lawyers and sides and protesters and whatever. I'd like to know what you want us to know about your son, the human at the center of this.
That he was a great individual. He did nothing. He had a big heart. He was kind. He was gentle. He was an old soul, and he was just a good son, as his last name states, and he didn't deserve what happened to him. But he's also a legend, and he's special, and he will remain special for as long as the world lives in my eyes, because he's going to make a change.
Yeah, and in your heart forever. Tamala Payne, Sean Walton, thank you both so much for taking the time with us tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.